work on. We want you guys to know that North San Juan and this whole area out here is very important to us here at the county. We've been doing a lot of work out here, from behavioral health to forestry to, you know, cell towers, questioning. So that's one thing that we are good at here, is trying to at least answer questions or be here to have these conversations, whether it's here or, of course, you're going to meet a lot of people that work for the county. There's a lot of staff here today that can answer a lot of questions as we come through our presentation. I brought people here that I thought would interest all of you with all that we're dealing with right now, from OES to CAL FIRE to, you're going to hear from our chief here just what's going on with North Sun and behavioral health, community development. So there's a lot of folks here, so think up your questions, because there's a little of you, but you guys are going to be on the spot tonight to ask those questions. So with that, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here. I know this building is warm. We had a little swamp cooler, obviously, that didn't do quite the job because we must be full of hot air. So that's a good thing, right? When we all mingle, that means that we're talking and our bodies are doing what they're supposed to do. So with that, I'm just going to go on from here. I am Sue Hook, your District 4 Supervisor. Very proud to represent you at the county. You guys are phenomenal.
I have to go to fire when I go.
No worries, thank you.
Sorry, Sue.
That's what we love our guys. They go when they are called, right? Thank you so much. No, that's great. So with that, I'm just like, I know it's warm in here. I know. That's it. We all have to work for each other, right? This is the best thing about here. I know. Okay, so with that, though, I want to introduce Chief Stewart from our North San Juan Fire Department.
Good evening. So this is my first opportunity to address you as the North San Juan Fire Chief. So really quickly, a little bit about me. I'm also the Washington Fire Chief. I started in Nevada County as a volunteer in 1981. I had a 35-year career and been a Washington Fire Chief since 2004. And it's really a whole different animal here, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute. But your North San Juan Fire Department is amazing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do as North San Juan Fire Department every year is have the department come up with what they think the goals should be. And one of the goals that they came up with last year is to have more than one firefighter at every call, no matter how minor. And we've been tracking that, and for the past 4 months have been on task with it perfectly. One of the other things they did is they said they wanted to bring the membership up to 50. Okay? So February of last year, they were at 26. We're now at 46. We've added 20 volunteers. And some of those volunteers are brand new, just new to the program. Others are retired from very elite positions. We have one who was 27-year deputy chief with CAL FIRE and has come over and has taken over training and has done an amazing job with that. We actually have other departments like Camptonville, Pike, and Allegheny coming to attend our weekly trainings. Another is the ex-chief of Consolidated. He used to be my boss. 35 plus years has come over, and he's now my public relations officer, and he's going to be reaching out, trying to unite the Firewise communities of North San Juan and seeing how we can support that some more. So some really great stuff going on. We've also just put in service a new what we call patrol vehicle, so you might see a brand new Ford pickup running around. It says P6131 on it, and it's got a 120-gallon tank, and it's very maneuverable, and we hopefully can get it to the fires when they're still small and catch them quickly. We're actually designing a new what we call quick attack or small engine that's going to become the kind of daily driver, so to speak, so that they'll take that to medical aid calls and stuff like that that are run of the mill, but then if there is a fire and they're out of the firehouse, hopefully they can jump on it quickly. So moving forward on that. And then really big bite, but we got to start somewhere. We started the planning to replace this facility with a new modern firehouse and community hall, which is a big bite, but we're going to work on it. So that's what I have.
What's the time frame on that?
I would hate to guess, because we got to figure out how to come up with $6+ million. Okay.
How can we help?
Attend the fundraisers. That's the greatest thing.
That's a lot of fundraising.
That's a lot of fundraisers, but it's a start. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. So I know there's just a lot to talk about. This is great. And I want to say there's people here. So this year is Chair Stewart's out. She made this the year of the small business. And so that's been a big drive. And so what are the opportunities that we would have here to spend local services, with our rural entrepreneurs? I was with the Arts Council. They want to look at doing something special with art that depicts the side of my district, which I think would be amazing. How many artists do I have, from artists to pottery to jewelry to storytelling? So lots of things like that coming. And I just want to say our library again is so important. Ruth's here tonight. We just appreciate they had like 4,900 adult visits and 1,800 kid visits. And I think that's so exciting. That says a lot.
That was 2025.
Yeah, that's 2025. And I just say that's so exciting. And, right now there's all the happenings. We've got North San Juan Cherry Festival coming. We have summer camp. That's going to be in July. So any of you that are interested, check out the library. It really is a special place. I want to say one more thing, and we get down the line and talk about some other things too, but housing is always going to be an issue. We see that housing is tough up here too, right? So, but one of the programs that we have up here is for moderate income for down payment assistance, and there's still some funds for that available. So if you're interested or want to talk about any of that, or you have anybody, you guys could. Your job today is going to be you guys are going to be the storytellers for North San Juan, since you're all here, which I do appreciate. But so there's some interesting programs there. Our website is so full of information. Take the time and really check it out. But you know that there's 3 homes through a program up here in the mobile home park that are going to be replaced this year through some special funding. And so those folks will be moved out, and those houses are going to be replaced coming up here, I think, between July 8th and the 31st. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on here. Your little community center is busy. Our library is busy. We have our healthy and happy clinics are going on up here. So with that, I'm going to move on though, just because I'm going to keep butting in and just telling you fun stuff that you might already know, but that I want you all to stay involved with and know that the county's here and I'm willing to help you with some of these projects. And so now, Alex, and this is our Executive Director of Emergency Services, and she's got all kinds of stuff.
I do. I have so many things to share, but I want to thank you guys so much for having us. My mom and dad actually got married in the North Columbia schoolhouse, and North San Juan was the first place they lived. And whenever I think I'm getting like a little too full of myself of like, I know how to be rural, I am reminded of the fact that my mother didn't realize that she needed firewood when she first moved here. And I'm like, Alex, you're one generation removed from someone who has a very steep learning curve that it snows in Nevada County. So it keeps me humble. So the Nevada County Office of Emergency Services, we're really here to support you in planning and preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery for all disasters countywide. So I mentioned snow because I think we've learned more recently that snow can be a tremendous disaster that we have to be equally prepared for as for wildfire. This time of the year, obviously, we're focusing on wildfire, so I'm going to walk you through each of those pillars and what we try to do to support you in those pillars. So first, planning and preparedness. I hope you are all signed up for Nevada County Alerts. This is our opt-in alert and warning platform that replaced Code Red in April of this year. If you had signed up for Code Red prior to March of 2025, your data did get migrated across. I hope you all received the countywide test that we did on May 28th. If you didn't, please visit readynevadacounty.org/emergency alerts and go in and verify your information. I've got a lot of materials over here that talk about different aspects of alert and warning. Hopefully you got your countywide mailer. And really what we're trying to communicate with this is it's not just about opt-in emergency alerts, it's about a bunch of different systems that create redundancies because we live in a rural community. So you may not have cell service. Your power may go out. You may be getting information because you're tuning in with a radio to KVMR or KNCO. You may be getting information from your neighbors. And we want to make sure that you understand all those different options and you have that web of redundancy residency, in particular this time of the year. Make sure that you know your zone. Zones have not changed. You're going to need that information when you receive an alert from Nevada County Sheriff's Office or from the Office of Emergency Services. This time of the year, make sure you know your evacuation routes. And don't just know them, drive them. Drive them in the day, drive them at night. Make sure that the vehicle that you plan to drive if you had to evacuate is actually well suited for driving that road. We live in a place where road conditions change year over year. My mom can't drive her convertible down the same road she can drive her truck. So make sure you understand what your options are. Pack your go bag. Make sure you've got a go bag packed for your pets. If you have medical needs, if you have young children, make sure you're thinking that through when you're packing your go bag. And make and share your plan. Decide where you're going to evacuate to, what your plan is for your children and your pets, and then share that with your friends and neighbors so they can be that backstop for you. In terms of mitigation, I'm actually joined by some fantastic partners here from Yuba Watershed Institute, CAL FIRE, and U.S. Forest Service, and I'm going to let them really dig more into some of our mitigation projects. But we've got a lot of wildfire mitigation work happening on the San Juan Ridge, and that's because of collaboration. You all are doing fantastic work in your firewise communities at the individual community scale, and we're working across the landscape to fill those gaps. So for instance, with Yuba Watershed Institute, this last fall, we wrapped up 5,600 acres of planning across private land. What does that mean? We completed environmental compliance that now allows us to seek funding to come in and do that mitigation work across 5,600 acres of private land. But guess what's nested amongst those 5,600 acres? A lot of federal land. So we also have planning underway for 1,800 acres of environmental compliance on BLM parcels. We've been working collectively with U.S. Forest Service for additional work on federal land under good neighbor agreements that basically allow us to partner with our federal land managers and get that work on the ground. And we're really focusing on areas that this community has identified as important. So Cruise on Grade was identified as an alternative evacuation route in our 2024 evacuation study. So we partnered with U.S. Forest Service to get work done that'll make that evacuation route safer. In terms of response, I know I have colleagues down the road from our community development agency. I think one of the more exciting things about response for the San Juan Ridge from my standpoint is improvements of bridges at our river crossings. Because that means we can get fire apparatus back and forth across the river in a safe and effective way. So those are things that are coming down the path. And finally, recovery. The takeaway with recovery is we're going to do everything we can to not go there. Every dollar we spend on mitigation is going to save us $6 on future recovery. I can tell you from experience that recovery takes a very, very long time, even if it is done well. We are still working through recovery for winter storms in 2017. So we're talking almost a decade later. So anything we can do on the front end to be better prepared for all types of disasters is going to serve us well in terms of how ready we are to respond and how adept we are at recovery. So I'm going to stop there because I know my colleagues are going to fill us in more detail on some of the projects we have underway. And thank you.
Thanks, Alex and Sue. So I'm Theo Fitanides. It says I'm executive director, but that's Chris, my boss, and he's not here tonight. So I'm a project coordinator for Yuba Watershed Institute. We're a grassroots nonprofit here. We have an office in Nevada City, and grew out of neighbors creating a collaborative agreement with the Bureau of Land Management to create the Inman Forest, primarily around Jackass Flats and surrounding the schoolhouse in sort of a large periphery. A lot of you probably know that land well. So we've been working there for a long time. We do the fungal foray, educational events, and also a tree rings journal, which is, there's a fun one coming up in that one too. So look forward to that. I won't spoil it. So we do forest resilience and fire risk reduction projects. And that's basically killing plants, right? Try to pick the right ones to kill so we don't kill all the others later when the fire comes through, or the beetles. So previously it was mostly BLM projects we were working with, and it was really great to have that partnership because it's a land that doesn't have a budget from Congress to manage itself. And so it really has to come from different places. So a partnership with the state is crucial to funding these projects locally. And the county works as a wonderful grant taker. They write great grants, and we get them. And so we just finished up a timber harvest on 250 acres of the inland forest. I really encourage you to go check that out. There's a lot of great places to walk, some open areas, and a lot of good regrowth. And we're going to be doing some reseeding on some of those piles you might see out there. So we have a lot of, I like the way it looks as somebody who grew up chaining themselves to a tree because the Forest Service was going to be mean and cut our trees on Tyler Foot Road. So I've come a long way in my thinking about trees. So sorry for anything I thought about you in the past, Forest Service. So we also got to do pile burning there, which was great because we had all this material that we couldn't really distribute on the forest floor. There was no good biomass harvest option for us that was even remotely within the grant scope. And so our executive director, Chris, really made it happen to get BLM staff who are super supportive of burning on BLM land, but it's just hard to get the time and all the requirements they have. And so they've been working really hard on their end to get a fuels person trained up. And there's a lot of good things on the horizon for BLM burning on their lands. I have a lot of hope for it. They really want to. We're working on South Yuba Rim, which is the project you might all know from the French Corral area, the racist fire scar, and then going down to the Yuba Rim on the north side of the Yuba, South Yuba, the north side of South Yuba, and then going up along the rim through BLM land and private properties and creating a strategic fuel break along that ridge line. And that ends at Jackass Flats, which is where the intimate starts. And so, like Alex said, we completed the CEQA for that, and now we have 800 acres of FEMA funding allotted for us. And we're waiting on them to do their NEPA, their environmental analysis. So we're thinking maybe mid-2027 for that. We were hopeful that it was earlier, so if you heard that it was earlier, that we thought that was in the past, and I think there's probably going to be some delays right now. So look forward to those 800 priority acres to treat along that ridge line. And then we have CAL FIRE has given us a grant to do 232 acres of that footprint of the secondary priorities. So that's some ridge lines and evacuation routes spread throughout the project area. So you'll be starting to see some of that this fall. We're going to start working on that. And we can actually do pile burning on that, which I'm really excited about. Not just mastication and hand cutting. And then we have other projects that may just be interesting on a larger scale. So Little Deer Creek just finished up a project there in Nevada City on federal and private land. And then also there's Round Mountain, which is going to be starting this fall, which would only be pertinent to this district if we had one of those north wind-driven fires like they had in the North Complex. Yeah, the North Complex a few years ago. That would potentially help you guys down here. And then Sierra Streams Institute, who's not here, they're doing a really great project that really is close to you here in District 4 and some areas on the Jones Bar area. And there's a lot of great work that's been going on there. And then also White Burden is going on the South Yuba Rim on the south side. And so I think there's a great effort right now with large-scale land management, but it's small acres. So get those go bags. I think that's all I have.
Nice, Theo. Now we'll move on to CAL FIRE. Kevin?
Well, good evening, everybody. I learned a valuable lesson that you should always come prepared because the first chance the battalion chief has to run out the door to a fire he's going to take. And then unfortunately, I made the second mistake where I sat next to my boss, so he elbowed me and said, "You're up, buddy." I am happy to be here. My day job is the Central Division Chief in Nevada Eagle Cluster. So for me, I'm in charge of our hand crews, of our aviation program, and our heavy equipment. I also have the privilege right now of being the interim North Division Chief, so I'm overseeing Nevada and Yuba County on top of that. So I'm fairly new. I'm learning as much as I can, as fast as I can about both Nevada and Yuba counties. That said, I'm also a 20-year resident of Nevada County. So I live in Rough and Ready, call that home, and have for a long time. And so my boss thought, hey, you're going to be the guy that's going to step in and handle this for us until we can fill this vacancy. So some of you may have known Division Chief Landon Hack beforehand. I'm sure he's probably a familiar face for you. So I'm temporarily filling in for him as well. So,
Your name?
Kevin. Kevin McHugh. Sorry about that. So I didn't prepare a bunch of things for you tonight because I was expecting to make fun of my battalion chief who was going to do that for you. That said, I am aware that in the counties itself, in the 3 counties that we have administrative oversight over, we're in excess of 50 different fuel reduction projects going all the time. So between the 3 counties, we're always deeply involved in other places. I know talking with Kenny here earlier, we're helping a lot of people. Alex and I work together collectively as well to deploy our resources wherever we can to kind of help with beneficial projects throughout Nevada County. So like the rest of you, we've identified that there are a lot of different hazards that threaten Nevada County. And so we're engaged all the time in the ways that we can to try and mitigate those. So from an emergency response perspective, of course, CAL FIRE and many of you were at full staffing. We went to that posture in March, and that's our standard posture now. That March of every year, we move to full staffing, with the exception of our aviation assets. Those because our airplanes require so much annual maintenance that they usually don't come on until a little bit later when the fire dangers are a little more significant. So those usually start to come on in late May, early June, and then kind of filter in throughout the month of June. But all of that's in place. Hey, look who I found.
You're doing great, Chief.
Yeah. Well, I will pass it to Chief Entz when it comes to specific projects for the North San Juan Ridge community. But in the meantime, I'm looking forward to answering questions, anything I can, kind of on a global perspective that you have for CAL FIRE, any of those things that might interest the rest of the crowd. So, thank you.
Hey, Kevin, why don't you explain the LA5, LA7 program? Because somebody's going to get confused.
Here you go, buddy.
You want the seat as well?
Yeah, whatever you want you. Tell me what you want. Upstairs.
Colin? I warmed everybody up.
Did you tell me jokes? Yeah. Oh. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Shawn, Battalion Chief for Nevada County, and was the North San Juan Ridge Battalion Chief. We've reorganized, so it's 3 battalion chiefs for all of that Nevada County. Myself, Chief Mickey Cheesy, and Mike Keeble-Toll. So I still have oversight for most of the North San Juan Ridge area, including part of the Battalion. So I think some of the questions were regarding where we're at with fuel projects as far as like Montezuma, and so that project is nearing, I would say nearing completion. We're getting as far as what we have for property that CAL FIRE is responsible for. Now RCDs and other programs, OES is still doing work out there ahead of us, but we are.
Use the microphone, please.
Is that working? Better now? Sorry. So we're using, so OES has got their property ahead of us, RCDs are working ahead of us, and then we're almost to a maintenance phase for our portion currently where we're at, and what we have slated for that project. Now that project is an ongoing large project that is large scale for multiple years, many phases to go on down, eventually tie into Bridgeport. That will be a long way on my career before that happens, but you guys will carry that on. That project is, I don't know if we've been out there, a piece of BLM is done, that had contractors in there, it looks very good on Jackass Flats Road. The piece that we've worked on off of Miller Road, and the crew staff told me today they've actually completed Miller Road. So I'm excited about that. It's 75 feet off the center line on both sides and chipped. So hopefully the folks on Miller Road are happy to see that work being done.
Looks good. I just drove up there yesterday.
Good, thank you. Lost River still being worked on and cleaned up, and that portion will be done here shortly. That doesn't have a lot of work. Ties into the old fuel break, CAL FIRE, the CDF fuel break on that ridge. I know there's a lot of questions regarding LE5s, and I don't know if we talked about that at all. We covered the burn permit process. So we are now restricted burning. What that means is that restricts dooryard burning. That's 40 by 4 piles, what we refer to as an LE62A or B. That pile, that is just only household dooryard burning. There's a Senate bill that is forcing that we will assist or help PPAs of burners to do LE7s and LE5s. So that will continue on as long as the burner can meet the prescription that's prescribed to them within their prescribed. They give us their prescription, we look at it, we agree, don't agree, we work back and forth with them. If they can meet prescription, you're gonna see smoke in the air and something like that, which is what you do one second. So you will see smoke in the air, and this is a new thing for all of us. It's new for me, it's new for everybody that's been involved with fire service for a very long time. Normally when restricted burning comes in, we don't see smoke in the air unless it's a vegetation fire. So, with that being said, these folks that are doing these burns are required to have training, be certified, and go through certification process.
There's about a 4-minute part period that I didn't understand what you said.
Okay,
You threw in numbers and dimensions.
okay, so, household burning is a 4x4 household burn permit. So that's a 4x4 flat.
That's your household.
Household, everybody backyard, we call backyard, dooryard burning. That's for everybody, so those are now restricted. So what you'll see now is large burns that are allowed with permits that are called either LE5. An LE5 is a large pile, it's either machine pile or mechanically done, or it has been piled by hand and it's oversized 4x4.
And it'll be professionals burning it.
Correct.
Okay, there you go.
And the elephant, no, not, right now, not gonna be, I wouldn't say CAL FIRE folks will be there yet, but that might be coming in the future. But what you'll see is and then we have from the LE7 and LE8 process, which is large agricultural broadcast burning permits. And that's what you'll see also, a lot of those coming in, which people are doing understory burns. And, to be truthful, they're trying to get consumption of the fuels that they want, and these folks that are doing these, a lot of the ones from the ridge here have a lot of experience. Some of them are past Forest Service employees, and they have experience and they've been through training, and a lot of them have a lot of resources on hand to do these burns. And so, what I wanted to stress to you folks is this is going to be something you'll see. You will see smoke in the air, and sometimes they're not all vegetation fires. Now, if you're concerned, we are required to report these fires or your burns to our dispatch center. They will have them on the CAD saying, yep, that fire is at Sunnyvale Road, and this is the address. So it's not that, it's a vegetation fire, and we'll treat it as unwanted fire.
So have you changed your rule about private property having your small fire, camping, whatever?
No, campfires, like, so say a somebody burning in a burn area, like a burn ring, thank you, burning with a cover on it is still allowed. Because technically, by law, that is part of your constitutional right to have a woman fire cooking. Now, that being said, that fire escapes your control or burns your neighbor's house down, you will be liable. So those are the three risks that you take. But if you want to have a burn pile in your backyard, or you want to have a campfire in your backyard, that is on you. But you gotta make sure you're within those regulations. And then if you lose that fire, it will become.
Okay, because I got a couple of neighbors and I'm having hot water because they leave.
Yeah, that's unresponsible.
I want to arrest them, but I was just making.
We can't do that yet, but that's okay. Okay, so I know what we're gonna do is keep these questions, I think is important. We're gonna move on to Kenny Remmert from Forest Service. And then I want to be able to keep these questions going, so keep thinking of this as you're going. We're gonna come back and have a Q&A.
As Sue noted, I'm Ken Remmert, District Field Specialist for the south side of the Yuba. So I work out of the SL in Nevada City. My jurisdiction is kind of the San Juan Ridge, coming down Highway 20 and then going out towards 80. Opposed to Theo, I grew up with a chainsaw in my hand. Actually, I'm a hotshot crew out of Lawrence Bar in 13, and then got this district specialist job in 24, which is a pretty awesome time to come in. We just started doing layout for the South Yuba roadside fuel project, which includes portions of Cruise on Grade, Gaston Grade, the town coming over the road coming out of the little town of Washington, the Alpha Road, Highway 20, basically from White Cloud going out to Bear Valley, as well as Chalk Bluff and Lowell Hill. So I'm here to kind of fill in some questions and more of the nuts and bolts for what we had in crews on the bill. It was also a perfect time because at that point, county OES had analyzed what would be a great evacuation route, which is what Cruise on Grade is. We started implementing that in the fall of 25 we just wrapped up 364 acres, so that was a pretty big accomplishment for that short period of time. I think that a lot of that was due to pre-planning and developing that partnership with the county being instrumental. So if you guys cruise up Tyler Foot Road, cruise on Grade, the Graniteville Road, all the way out to Graniteville, you've seen those piles on the side of the road. So that's part of our roadside project. Basically, we analyzed 250 feet from the center line of the road, and that was analyzed for hand cut, hand pile, mastication, timber harvest, and potentially herbicide. So we entered the first phase of that project, which is basically thinning from below. So you see all those hand piles, and that's a great timber stand improvement. We'll try to burn those this winter, so we can anticipate a little bit of smoke on that road in that area, as well as next winter if we don't get them all burned this winter. But that's our priority for burning for the south side of the district. After that, going into 27, we have a planned layout for timber harvest. So after we get all the piles burnt, we plan on going in and reducing that basal area. I'm sure you guys still notice the canopy height's still pretty thick. And what we want to do is reduce that to a more natural condition class. So 60 is about maybe half the trees, as you can imagine, like on the landscape. So that'll provide a pretty good buffer from either fire severity right alongside the road, or if there was something coming up from either side of the ridge. So plan layout in 27 and then hopefully implementing in 28. That's one of our district priorities. Other than that, we started a little bit of work on the Gaston grade portion. So right outside of, Graniteville. Right outside of Graniteville, we got a little bit of hand pile work. So we'll probably lump that into our plan 26, 27 winter burning plan. We've already started removing some of the timber in the upper portion of Gaston Green. Planning hopefully finishing that this season. We're running some LOPs for spotted owl, so they had to take a break for a little bit, and then obviously snow access up there. And then after that, the third phases, once we get the timber out, sold in mills, is going in and masticating the tops and limbs. And we're hoping that at that point we'll be in a good spot to be able to maintain these fuel breaks with ideally understory burning. So that's kind of like that third phase, which is a huge point of the project, is being able to maintain these fuel breaks. Other portions that we have started of the South Yuba, the bigger kind of roadside project that we got is portions of Mole Hill and also Chalk Bluff. And that didn't have a hand cut, hand pile component to it, but mostly like timber cutting and then masticating. That was already treated in decades past, so the fuel level isn't quite as high, so we didn't have to go in there before initially and treat it with hand cut. But between Chalk Bluff, Mole Hill, and then hopefully the Cascade portions out towards like Greenhorn Creek, out past Scouts Flat. Plan on hopefully implementing that this summer, as well as our Giant King portion of the South Yuba roadside project that starts from White Cloud along Highway 20, going out towards Bear Valley. Other work that we've got going on, I'm sure you guys have been familiar with the Bear Trap Springs Junction right up on Cruise on Grid. That's been an ongoing project for decades. We're finally getting to a point where we can start understory burning that. We had a small window, but eventually got shut down because of red flag warnings this week. But we'll plan on continually implementing understory burning in that area. Other than that kind of future work, we've identified some areas and some of the community has reached out about Devil's Canyon. There's some big trees out there that hopefully eventually, once we get that analyzed and find funding, that we can treat out there to save some of those larger groves of trees. Other than that, anybody have any questions? I know that's a lot all at once.
I know, that's great, Kenny, I appreciate it. There's a lot of work being done. So we're gonna just move on, and if you don't mind, then we'll come back and do questions. And so, next is Trisha Tillotson she's our agency director for community development.
Thank you, Sue. So again, Trisha Tillotson, I'm the Community Development Agency Director for the county. CDA for short. You might say, what is that, right? Well, CDA includes 6 departments, so pretty much anything related to development and public works is CDA. So I'll just quickly go over each department. We have our agricultural department. Since the RCD wasn't here, the Resource Conservation District, I'll just touch on, we're working with them using a sustainable agricultural land grant to put together a study to really help protect our ag lands in our community. We also have our building department, our code and cannabis department, who are directors here tonight, Matt, if you want to weigh in. And if you've heard, we do have discussions about potential cannabis dispensaries. North San Juan and Donner Summit are the 2 potential locations. So if you have questions about that, we're here to answer those. We also have our environmental health department, our planning department, and our director, Brian Foss, is here in the back. One thing our planning department is working on that may be of interest is our RV ordinance, and then we also process cell tower applications. So I know there's discussions about that. We also have our public works team, David Garcia and Pat Perkins, and so they're working on North San Juan Fire Suppression Project, for example. That's a project that we started working in partnership with Tom Browning previously, and Mike Stewart moving forward. Pat Perkins is also working on the Edwards Crossing Bridge, which will be critical for evacuation. We have Kimberly Parker, our Economic Development Program Manager, and so she works on business support programs, workforce training opportunities, and then also broadband. We also have Shabani Karpi Pearl in the back, and she represents our Recreation and Climate Board objectives. So for example, Shabani has worked with Oak Tree Park and provided a scheduling program in partnership with a lot of our other park districts in the community. And then Shabani's also working on our Resilience Project, which is related to our Climate Action Plan. Brian might pick me, it's called the Resource Resiliency Roadmap now, but essentially it's an action plan. And all of these things are gonna help us go after grants. And that will help us bring needed infrastructure to our community. So just tonight, so far, I've heard there's a couple of grant needs. One is the Oak Tree Park bathroom area and shower, right, that Rue mentioned. And then also Rue reminded me of the North San Juan sewer needs. We're gonna have to be updating our sewer fees here again. And I know long-term, we're looking at other options, and that would also help economically in North San Juan if we brought in water and better sewer too. And then we're also working on the North San Juan, well, Mike just mentioned this, we want to look for a North San Juan fire station grant potential. So lots of things there. I went over really quick, happy to answer questions afterwards.
Yeah, thanks, Trisha. Again, I want to thank all of the staff that's here. If you have questions about anything, they're here tonight, so take advantage of that. So now I'd like to welcome Toby Guevin. He is our new Director of Public Health.
Hi, thanks so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Toby Guevin. I'm the Public Health Director of Nevada County Public Health. And just wanted to share a little bit about what we do at Public Health and some of the partnerships and services that we provide. And again, happy to answer any questions as we get towards the end. So within Public Health, we have 2 primary divisions that are providing services. We have our Health and Wellness Division, which does a lot of health education and promotion. So we work closely with schools, with community-based organizations to do trainings, to do education, to do outreach on a variety of different health issues. And then we have our nursing team or our clinical services team, which provides a number of different clinical services. That includes home visiting, it includes immunizations, it includes TB testing, it includes other things. So those are all services that we provide. Some of the services that I wanted to highlight here were Our vending machine program, how many folks are familiar with the health supply vending machines? A few people. We have health supply vending machines that are available in 5 locations across the county. One of them is at the North San Juan Community Center. So far, in that project, like one of our focuses is making sure that we can meet the health needs across the board through that vending machine in terms of health supplies. So we have a variety of different health supplies that are all accessible for free. Those include things like first aid kits, grooming kits, hygiene kits, harm reduction supplies, so things like naloxone, and then we also provide toothbrushes. And so looking at the data from our vending machine here in North San Juan, we've given out 689 free health supplies through that vending machine program since its inception in March of 2024. The most common kits that are accessed through that vending machine are the 118 oral health kits, 94 grooming kits, 93 first aid kits, 74 personal hygiene kits, and then 60 bags of naloxone. One of the things that we really focus on is opioid overdose prevention. We know that Nevada County has been hit by the fentanyl crisis, and that's a major issue. And so really working to make sure that naloxone is available as much as possible across the community, including in those red bags over there on the table. So please feel free to grab one of those. Really, our message is that having naloxone is in your first aid kit is something that is really important. And I think because of those efforts, we've seen a dramatic decrease in the number of opioid and fentanyl-related overdose deaths that we've had in Nevada County over the last year. We've also tried to meet people's needs by developing seasonal kits. So we previously had a winter kit, so a winter warming kit that was accessible through there, and then we will soon have a summer kit that's accessible through there that has like a wet towel and things like that for people for extreme heat. We went through a process called a community health assessment process and developed a community health improvement plan as a result of that. We held focus groups here in North San Juan, and North San Juan is one of the focuses for our work. One of the things that came out of that process was the importance of making services accessible through mobile health. So you may have seen our mobile health van around the community. We've done, since February 2024, we've done 10 immunization clinics in partnership with Grizzly Hill and the Family Resource Center here, serving 56 people, primarily students at Grizzly Hill. Again, we want to make sure that we're providing services that are accessible to people that are meeting them where they're at. We also have our dental program, which is a really incredible program that's really developed over the last few years. Since 2022, we've done dental screenings every single year at Grizzly Hill, covering grades K through 8. And so just as an example, in 2025, we screened 27 students. We identified 12 students that had untreated tooth decay and then 2 urgent cases. And so we're able to make referrals to partners and through MOUs that we have to make sure that people can access care. And then we also, just this past year, developed a new program that allows us to provide further services for dental care. And so in the last 2 years, we provided 23 students at Grizzly Hill who are Medi-Cal eligible with direct dental services through those clinics. So I think those are some examples of public health of how we're really trying to demonstrate, the care that we have for the community and our strong desire to meet people where they're at and make services accessible as possible. We've also moved into a more integrated clinic model where we have a variety of different services that are accessible at the same time. So we did a 3-month pilot project at the Commons Resource Center down in the Brunswick Basin, where we had our immunization team, we had our oral health team, we had HIV and Hep C testing that was happening. We partnered with Interfaith Food Bank to provide food and meals to folks who were there. We partnered with Yuba Harm Reduction Collective to provide wound care accessible through there. And so we just completed that pilot project. It was highly successful. So we're continuing to do that, and our goal is to expand to areas like North San Juan and Penn Valley and others to provide those services. Just some other examples of what we're trying to do. We provide training around fentanyl and opioid overdose prevention in schools. And so we recently did a training for 7th and 8th graders around fentanyl and opioid overdose prevention. And then we're planning right now, working closely with the school to do some mental health and suicide prevention training at the school in September, which is Suicide Prevention Month. So there's a lot of things that are happening. We have great services. I could talk forever, but I'll stop. Our maternal child and adolescent health program, which does home visiting. There's also a variety of free parenting classes that are provided there. There's a flyer over on the table next to the red bags when you grab your red bag. That has a list of all of those different classes. They're free and accessible to folks, and just a really great support for young families to make sure that they have access to the information and resources that they need. What's that? That's a good question. It's over on the flyer right there. I will go peek at the flyer and provide you with an answer. And then the last thing was just our WIC program. I was reminded of that today, our Women, Infant, and Children program. We serve over around 1,300 families every month through our WIC program, and that includes food benefits, and it includes nutrition education and other services. And so, yeah, there's a lot of great things that are happening, but we always, collaboration is super important to us, so really just want to make sure that we can connect and collaborate and work with you and figure out how we can support the needs of the community.
Thanks, Toby, and as I was saying, you guys have participated in the Cherry Festival the last few years, and we've really enjoyed that. We had a little clinic up here and a lot of opportunities for people to stop in and visit, so we really appreciate that. And so next we have Megan Murphy, and she is our program manager for behavior health.
I want you at every engagement I have. You're the ultimate fan, and I really appreciate it. I'm Megan Murphy. I am your program manager for adult behavioral health for Nevada County. Here to talk to you about the services that our department offers. And we have kind of a broad spectrum of mental health services, substance use services, and crisis services. So starting with mental health services, we serve children and adults. Our children's department serves youth 0 to 21 and their families with individual therapy, group therapy. They have a summer camp that just started this morning, and a lot of family-based services that are really supportive for youth as they're like really working on foundational skills and building their mental health resiliency. And that's 0 to 21, if I didn't already say that part. And they're located in Brighton Greens, of course down the hill from it. And then our adult department serves 21 and over. We're based on Crown Point Circle. We do group individual therapy, psychiatry services, case management. We also, both departments do psychiatry, medication management services, as well as providing other service coordination, helping people link with additional services that will lend to the stability of the family or the individual. That's really foundational for continuing to build that mental health stability, as well as housing, residential, and homeless services. Our adult program and youth program also support folks who are justice involved or involved in some of our court services that overlap with mental health or substance use disorder services. And we have like one primary way to start your journey through Nevada County behavioral health, and so we have a lot of pamphlets over there, but I will draw your attention to this one. It has the phone number on the front, right there. I usually have a PowerPoint, we do a thing, but this is it. And so your pathway to accessing services, or just seeing what someone might qualify for, concern for a loved one, would start with our access phone number line that's on that flyer. We also have substance use disorder services. We can walk people through a wide variety of placement options up to and including residential treatment services. A lot of folks don't realize that that also is done point of contact with our behavioral health team. So that's, again, the flyer, grab the flyer. We also have crisis services. We have the mobile crisis unit that can deploy into the community if someone's having a significant struggle. That hotline is 24 hours a day. It doesn't necessarily mean someone will come out. Sometimes that's it's a scary call to make for yourself or for a loved one. So they'll walk you through what your options are, see if there's an immediate need for service, or if there's a link to service that can happen at a later date. We also have a crisis stabilization unit down by the Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital, where someone can come for care up to 23 hours, take a break. That is also a walk-in service that could be provided. Let's see. We didn't talk a whole lot about mental health matters. We have another brochure here. So this is a bit mental health. Has anyone been to this website, Mental Health Matters in Nevada County? Not at all. It's a really fabulous website where folks can access services regardless of your insurance. There are local resources, nationwide services, online, phone call, text, 988, just a really wide variety of support, not just for individuals who are going through mental health struggles, but also for family members and friends of folks who are looking for resources to support yourself while you're supporting someone else, as well as ways to support folks in accessing services for themselves. I think the last thing I want to talk to you about is coming soon, our Deer Creek Behavioral Health Center. We were awarded a really wonderful grant, a lot of partnership going into that. There's this 16-bed facility the ground has already been broken out in front of the Root Center down on Mindu Avenue, and we are just so excited to have a far more local resource for folks who are in need of residential psychiatric care, as well as ongoing mental health rehabilitation care. So that's, groundbreaking.
What is the time frame on that?
The time frame on that, I believe, the time frame is, I said aggressive earlier in the meeting, and I meant to say ambitious. It's an ambitious time frame for services to begin fall of 2027. But ground has actually broken, and it's quite fun if you go down there. They've moved gigantic boulders out of the ground. Yes, big piles. The residents around are going to be really excited when that last piece of granite is broken up, because I hear it's quite loud down in that direction. But yeah, we're super, super excited about that project.
Okay, thank you so much. There's just a lot going on. I'd just like to say, so Pamela, of course, she is the one that is on the end and has been great and instrumental on helping us bring some of this group together, because it really takes a team and the coordination that comes with this. They have quarterly meetings now. We have our Adult Family Services Commission meeting, which you were on now. And one of the other things we're going to do besides church festivals, we're going to have this will be our annual third back to school health fair. And so it's really fun. The kids come and get them all ready for school, and it's a fabulous evening that we put together. And that's going to be in August this year. So that's how Pamela has been so involved, and we really appreciate the work that she's helped bring us, and together with the hospital, with behavioral health, with mental health. There's a lot of work being done up here on the bridge and in Nevada County all around. So thank you all for all that. So some of the people that are here visiting today are all very engaged in what's happening in our community, and I really appreciate that, because I do know you help spread the word on that. I'm just going to take a minute again to say there's a lot of staff here. If you do have some questions that you'd like answered, or have some, like right now we can do a little Q&A, but then feel free to mingle a little bit. We won't just get up and jump out of here if you want to have those one-on-one conversations with any of these folks that are here, or any of the staff that's in the background. So are there any burning questions right now, Theo?
I can give a small update for Darcy.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I gotta have one more update for you just from Theo for the Resource Conservation District, is another group that's doing a lot of work in conjunction with, if you notice the first part of the agenda had a lot to do with vegetation management and fire, right? And so that collaboration is really making things happen, and between the county and the NGOs, there's a lot, and CAL FIRE, there's a lot of work going on. So thanks, Theo. Yeah,
I do not represent the Resource Conservation District, but in a different hat, a metaphorical hat, not this hat. I am the board chair of the Prescribed Burn Association for Nevada County, which is restarted recently, and so we're working with the RCD and Haley Cooper Prescribed Fire program, and so there's high hopes, have a high expectation that there will be continued funding for that program, and so you can expect to continue to be able to request site visits to your property from that program, which is a really great way to look at how to have fire on your own terms on your property. This is gonna come at some point. It'd be nice to have it on our terms when it's really boring. And you can just like prepare a lot and then watch it. And then sleep well at night, so that in the summer we don't have as much of the scary fire that hurts buildings and people and stuff. So, and then as part of a separate grant, the Resource Conservation District completed a burn out at Olala Farm recently. I'm sure you probably smelled some of that in the morning.
That was my neighborhood here.
Yeah, so that, I know that can be really upsetting. Yeah, and so that was targeting barred goat grass in part, and that was part of a two burn grant for agricultural burning. So that's the only thing I know about the RC.
Yeah, thanks for that. And it was interesting, and I would say even that did put out, it was really interesting, they gave the guidelines of what happened with that. So if you wanted to check that, it told you how many people had to be involved in that. It wasn't something that was done haphazardly. Not that it didn't make me nervous. But I'm just saying, so that gives you a little overview, and I appreciated that. Thank you to Pascal for putting that out. Okay, any questions?
I have a question, for OES. Is there any funding for, other cooling shelters besides the community center? The library where I work, we have air conditioning, and we had after hours cooling shelter before, or yeah, like a couple years ago and stuff. But we have to staff it. We have to pay somebody to either come and keep the doors open after hours, or come in on a day that we're not open and it's 90 million degrees outside. And at one point there wasn't funding, but they gave us like water and like cheese and crackers and shit like that. But like nothing really like that actually helped people. And then it was hard for me because we are a really small nonprofit. And so anybody that I got to do it would sometimes volunteer, but also be like, hey, can you pay me for being here for 6 hours, 8 hours? Because, that was just wondering if there's any funding for something like that.
Yeah, I appreciate you raising that question. So right now, the funding that we do have is the overhaul of the Grass Valley Vets Hall into kind of like an all-season resilience hub. But I don't know that the need exists unless people tell me, like, hey, what would be great is if we needed to staff a cooling shelter, is there a way to ensure that there's resources for that?
Even just like a stipend.
Yeah.
Not like, where this is actually going to cover somebody's costs, but it might help offset our costs as a small nonprofit to be able to offer that.
So yeah, so the answer is we don't currently have funding, but I appreciate you raising this because I am always looking for grant opportunities and always looking for, sometimes those little pieces are very easy to tuck into much larger grant proposals, and it's the thing that really makes a tremendous difference. So thank you for that, and I am now weaving that into my grant brain for various resilience-related projects. And I'll definitely keep it in mind as well if we have discretionary funding when these things happen. Obviously, if it's a disaster and we're declaring a disaster and pulling down disaster funding, it's different. But oftentimes when we have heat events, it's not a disaster per se, but it's really still very uncomfortable and impactful for residents.
Right, that's why we have worked with OES before.
Thanks, Ruth.
And then I have another question for,
Let's do one more to see, let me spread it out a little bit first.
First thing I wanted to check in on is, I was just talking with Abra about this, and I guess the question was already posed for CAL FIRE, is that if there was, so regarding the cell towers proposed for the area and the fire component. So if these towers catch fire, do you guys have 40,000 gallons of water on hand? Abra said at the last meeting that you guys addressed that and said you would let it burn and protect the surrounding.
No, that was a conversation.
Oh, yeah, it's the last fire meeting.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious your thoughts on that specifically, and then in part, what I'm curious about also is in regards to the Miller Road fire break, that this tower on Purdon Road is right there at the end of Miller Road, and that's also an evacuation route, our only evacuation route for Miller Road. So if that tower catches fire and is sounds like it's highly toxic, so we'd probably evacuate the neighborhood for air quality reasons. And if that's at the source of our evacuation route, we're essentially trapped. So I'm curious your thoughts on that to start off.
So I'm going to defer to Chief Stewart on this one as well, because it is the fire district's responsibility for some of those specific infrastructure. So the way we address things is by talking to fire. So that is a infrastructure. So if there's an issue with the structure or life threat, or that is our operational priorities. A cell tower is infrastructure. It falls into that, but it's not a priority. It's a low priority. So that priority with now lithium-ion batteries are a threat to all of us. They're a threat to firefighters. They're a threat to everybody here. And the thermal runaway issue is something we're all addressing as in the fire service, new to us. We're addressing them that it's becoming more of a larger issue that we are learning every day more and more about. It's definitely a scary thing. It's a scary thing for exposure for people that don't have gear or even people that do have gear. So to answer your question, the 40,000 gallons of water that might put it out, probably won't put it out. It's not going to be a priority. So as far as the cell towers, we have deferred the cell tower conversation. I've deferred that conversation up the chain of command, so I don't know where our department sits on input on the cell towers. Maybe Chief Wilson can speak to that farther, but that's way above my level of where we're going to lean on cell tower replacement.
Okay, but I think you can ask some more questions when this is over. He's there, yes?
So in regards to that, I've been here 42 years. My son was a firefighter from North San Juan. He's a paramedic now with dignity, and I live on Sweetland Road. And I'm within a little over 1,000 feet where the proposed tower would go. So my concern is I hadn't driven up Peachy Road ever. And so I decided to take a drive up Peachy Road and see what the backside of that looked like. And as you come up 49, it was about 7 years ago, the fire started at Peterson's Corner. And from 49, you can see the Scotch Brook, which is untreated and huge. So that's at the end of where I live on Sweetland. But I turned up Peachy, and it's just a thicket of small undergrowth. And as you come up Peachy and turn on Fields, which connects to Blue Sage, you look down and it's just acres of Scotch broom coming almost right up to pretty much up to close to up to Fields. So that looks to me to be a really major fire hazard. So in regards to this tower, it's a concern, but as in regards as a resident, that is private property, which is a concern to me and the San Juan Ridge community. How can we address a large acreage of private property that poses a risk to the local community? Fire folks, anybody, is there anything that we can do to help assist that not ever be a threat to us for fire mitigation?
That's a tricky question. That's an ever-going question, because that property belongs to somebody.
Right.
So we cannot go in and just tell them they're going to clear it. Now we can go in and enforce they have their clearance for their structures and those type of things. But we can't, it's still private property. They still own the property.
But what resources does a community have to make that happen? How can we protect this community from that being a hazard to all of us?
I mean,
tower or no tower?
I can tell you what options we have at the county, right? So we have a compliance-driven defensible space inspection program. You can go online to our website and you can request a defensible space inspection if that parcel is adjacent to or impacting your ingress-egress on a private road. So once you do that, know that our defensible space inspectors will come out. They will inspect that private parcel. They will also inspect other private parcels along the road, because if they're out there, they're going to do proactive inspections as well. So I always recommend that if folks are having challenges with defensible space or hazardous vegetation on private property, They first try to be a good neighbor and have those conversations. I know that doesn't always work, but it's important to first try to make contact and have that conversation. You're always welcome to reach out to the OAS team and chat with one of our defensible space inspectors through the options and what the compliance process might look like. If we go out and we do an inspection and we determine that the parcel is in violation of our hazardous vegetation ordinance, then we will enter them into a compliance-driven process where we will send them a notice to abate. They'll have a period of time to make progress towards abating. We will come back and re-inspect and then continue to issue notices to abate if they're not bringing it into compliance. We prefer to provide resources in the sense that our preference is to work with Firewise communities and identify a number of private parcels. And this year, and I know we've done some of these projects on the San Juan Ridge, but we've been able to roll out funding where the Firewise communities are securing those right of entry from all the private parcels. And then we're coming in and supporting with roadside chipping or other services to help abate that vegetation. So I know it's probably not the direct answer that you want, where like we can just come in and clear hazardous vegetation on private property, because as the chief was saying, like we're really trying to also be respectful of people's right to do what they would like on their property within reason and to manage their land in the way that like sits with them, while at the same time ensuring that our community is safe.
Yeah, I see this as a community issue, because it's such a large area. And if you haven't been out that road, you should go take a peek, because you know what it looks like from fields looking down.
Well, thank you for that. Firewise communities are a huge asset.
Absolutely. I don't know if there's one close, but.
Theo, did you have a
Just
comment?
community organizing, I think you really hit on it, Chief and Alex, that a lot of the projects that the Yuba Watershed Institute's been involved on started from community organizing, and like what Alex was saying about getting neighbors together to come up with a coherent plan for the area that might also treat this particular nuisance. And then also somebody said a great thing, like if the landowner's constraint is time and money, which is oftentimes the case rather than desire, once that relationship is built, what's the benefit to you of having it done and helping out as a community? So I think that's always something, like we think about private property as we only have responsibility to ours, but we have responsibility to our community as long as those private property owners are in good agreement and happy to be along with that ride.
Thanks, you. Dark?
Hello. I'm part of the Grizzly Hill Lake City Road Firewise community. We have, how many parcels, Nancy? Hundreds, and probably a quarter of the people on those properties participate. My question is for this man by the back door. We live by Edwards Crossing. Alex has heard this every meeting I go to. What are we doing to protect us? We have that great Yuba Rim, we have Montezuma Hill, but Edwards Crossing is a gigantic disaster ready to go off, and we are very at risk. So what do you do? Tell us what you're doing.
Right now, my name is Pat Perkins, I'm the principal engineer at Battalion, and we are working right now on the design of two different alternatives for Edwards Crossing. Currently, we're getting through the EIR process, so the existing bridge does need to be replaced. Right now, we are having spirited discussions with Caltrans, to put it nicely. Caltrans would like to only fund the bridge that basically replaces the old one, or very close to replacement of the old one. County preference is to build one further upstream, where Ken turns from get straight across the canyon, so emergency access, and we're going to fire, etc. That makes so much more sense. Trying to get people in and out of that area, so that's what we're continuing to push. Right now, we do not have a buy-in from the state. We're continuing to try to push them. This week alone, we are trying to go after some additional grant funding because the cost difference between the bridge down by the existing one is about $6 million. The bigger bridge up the canyon is closer to $25 million. So we've got a significant gap that we're trying to work on. We're submitting additional grants, trying to get it. If we can't get grants, we're going to continue to push Caltrans, and we're going to push them as hard as we can, both from my level, working our way through the supervisors, and actually going to the state. So we're pushing it as hard as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I want to be respectful of our time. We're at 7:15. I would just welcome you all to ask more questions when we mingle around here, or if there's somebody that has another, you did have one more question.
I wanted to talk to mental health about if there's any chance of like more mobile. Like we were talking about meeting them where they are, and I know there is a mobile health crisis team, which I have utilized actually twice this week, as well as the ambulance and fire department. This week's been a really interesting week with the library issues. So I was just wondering if there's gonna be, like, if there's anything, like, that would be able to be, like, mobile, like, you know, you do, like, come out with the dental, you come out with other kinds of screenings and vaccination screenings. You do, like, mental health screenings, like, you know, like, during the food bank, would be a great time to just, like, be like, hey, you know, you need some counseling? You're having a hard time getting signed up and figure out what's next, you know?
Any group can come to that health access clinic, right?
They do come, yeah, if you want to, we have at the food bank, we have this wonderful thing that Pamela helped us set up, County Health Services. And we're free there, we have community nonviolence is there, we have dignity health is there, they're providing the library with snacks. It's great, it's a great partnership, it's a great opportunity. I actually would love to see it more than once a month, but it is a really nice funnel for all. There is like, something like, I don't know, 135 families, if not more, 200 and some families that come through the food bank on Sunday. So it's really great, it's a really great place to capture people. And it's up to 200. Yeah, it's 150, 200 people. And getting all those people to our area, just being out, is really challenging. So, like, meeting them where they're at, when they're at those places, like, just like, we have community nonviolence comes twice a month, and they have a free walking counseling, which people kind of use. But, like, the intake for mental health is something that I think would be very awesome. And I would be able to have it at the library on the Tuesday, great. Trying to give people resources, trying to, you know,
Yeah, they have that vaccine mobile service.
I like the mobile health clinic, the mobile crisis unit has been deployed to my library twice in the past month. And then I had an emergency room visit and an ambulance. It's just this week. So, yeah.
Well, I see a meeting in you guys' future, Ruth.
Sure.
I think that's just how we start those conversations and see where we can build for them. So I think that would be great. So we thank you for being here tonight, just to open up those conversations.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think those are the types of spaces that we want to be in and be able to provide services in. At Public Health, we don't provide the direct mental health services, but we serve as a convener oftentimes in bringing people together to provide those types of services. And so I'm not fully aware of all of the limitations that might exist for that, but I definitely think meeting and figuring out what are the services that we can provide at the Health and Happiness and other places, and really thinking strategically about what will work best in that situation. Yeah. But we should definitely get together.
Perfect, thank you. You have one more question?
Yeah.
I got one more down here.
So I just wanted to address like the cell tower issues, a growing presence in our community. There's 2 towers proposed on the ridge at Willow Springs and up Herndon. And there's a group of concerned citizens that have created a Facebook page where information can be shared and asked for, and we can, we're looking at educating the community and finding, advocating more for the safe location of cell towers for health and fire risk and property value, to protect property values. So that page could be found. It's Ridgewise for Safe Cellular if you want to learn more. And then I also had a question for you about small cell facilities with telecommunications, because I understand that the Board of Supervisors didn't vote in any regulations on those. And so I'm curious if those can be erected by telecommunication companies under eminent domain, or how, like, could we see small cell facilities going up on people's private properties, on PG&E towers or AT&T towers? And what, if any, rules are there that would, I guess, be more statewide, since we don't seem to have any in our county regulations? Are there any limits or guidelines on those? Because I also understand that they can't be co-located. So Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T would want their own small facility on separate towers. And in certain places, these are happening every 500, 700 feet, and they're repeating for each provider. And I'm curious if the Ridge could see these small cells going up on our poles and where they would be allowed to put them.
That would be a very good question. So that is Brian Foss, and he is the head of our planning department. And I would ask Brian to come and have that conversation.
So our ordinance does allow small cells. They're allowed with a building permit, essentially, electrical permit. I'm not aware that we've had any in the county that have been applied for or constructed at this time. There are quite a few FCC, Federal Communication Commission, rules and regulations that really limit the local authority on how those can be regulated and placed within the community. So currently they are allowed with our ordinance. They're treated as kind of small antennas, and they would need to meet the same requirements of RF radio frequency emissions that the larger cell towers are required to meet. So we would verify that they are within the FCC limitations and get the appropriate building permits, and then they could be placed within different areas of the community. From my understanding, which is not a lot, but they're mostly used in urban areas, a lot more than rural areas, to get in between buildings. The larger towers seem to be more of the preferred technology by the cell tower, the carrier companies for the more rural areas, but we're really kind of hamstrung by a lot of the FCC regulations that give a lot of benefits to cell tower companies. If they demonstrate that they're within the FCC limitations, it's hard for a local jurisdiction to limit them or to deny them. And so even if we created our own set of standards, it would likely not hold up in court if it was challenged by Verizon or AT&T. So, you know, like I said, I'm not aware that we've seen any in the county. That doesn't mean they may not come.
They are in the county. And my question is, can you respond specifically to can they go on private property?
Yes, they can.
Without the owners being notified?
They have to have a building permit.
The owners have to be the ones putting them on.
No. The telecom company puts it on and
Well, the telecom company is going to likely need to get owner permission.
That's actually not what the contract is. They can install them without getting any
Well, that
permission.
is with the owner to
Not with small
install.
cell
Not the small cell. That's what we're wondering, if you know, if we can just come home one day and find a truck in our yard and a small cell being attached to the tower. And I also want to add in that.
Doesn't sound right. That's a private property issue. I don't think anybody can put anything on their property.
But I think that's important to get clarity about, because my understanding is that that could happen, and that there are some rules and regulations that could be put in place by the county to restrict that. And so my question is, why would we not? Because say someone owns 20 acres and their house is even in the middle of their acreage, is it possible that PG&E could allow a small cell facility to be put on any of the poles leading up to their home within their private property bounds? And I think that's a really important point to be very certain about.
Easements are a different issue, and like I said, I haven't seen that issue. I'd have to look into that. I guess PG&E could allow things to go on their poles, but they would not be allowed to just show up on private property without being part of an easement or within an easement or part of the utility infrastructure. So I guess that's a
We can
possibility.
look into that a little bit more
Yeah.
and find out what the details are.
I just think it'd be important to get clear on
Yeah,
that.
we could probably do that for sure.
I just want to tag in really quickly, I'll be really short. I just want to be really clear that FCC is non-compliant with an order that has been going for 5 years. Just to be clear that we're operating under FCC regulation, but FCC is non-compliant, which is serving these towers and not us. So let's just all be aware of that for our own information.
Okay,
Thank you.
I got one more hand up in there, and then I'm gonna sit there. Hello.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about where the status of the fire suppression system is, and also just wanted to point out that it would be pertinent that we get that in place before we put any cell towers that would create fire or be burned by fire. I think that would be the most important to implement first before any cell towers go down there.
Oh, good, yeah, that'd be great to get that update. Trisha?
So I'm looking at Pat Perkins, but, so the North Side Lawn Fire Suppression Project, I actually helped out with that when we were starting with it, and it's been many years. And so the challenge has been the funding primarily. Staff are continuing to work with USDA, and we're anticipating having the funding this fall, looking at Pat to confirm. And so our staff are continuing to work on that. Next steps are really acquiring the right-of-way, which we've talked to many property owners, the few, I should say, who we would need easements from, and then doing the environmental work. So anything else, Pat?
I would just add that ideally, if everything goes well, this project could go as soon as next month.
I have one more follow-up on that, just with the water table, I know that my well is being monitored. Is there, I haven't heard any information, is that, so it's strong enough water table to consider having another well right there?
We've been doing monitoring for a while,
Yeah,
and it would continue with it, but I don't know how to do that.
I haven't seen the data yet, so I don't know. I can't.
Check back in later.
Different subject. Flock cameras. Can we address the issue of flock cameras? How did they get here and why are they out on 49 by Tylerfoot Road?
So I would just tell you that the sheriff is gonna come and do a presentation on flock cameras. So I believe that's gonna be sometime in August. We'll hear about that in the board chamber, so there'll be a report out on that.
Really upset about that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, with that, I just want to thank everybody that did come. I want to thank all my staff that came, because these guys are remarkable.
I want to thank all of you.
And then I want to thank, I want to thank Cal Fire and Theo and the Forest Service, because you know what, it really does take a village of people to make everything happen. And the collaboration that we have in Nevada County is very special. And whether you realize it or not, it's not like this in every county. And the way we all work together, especially in a case of emergency, and some of the work that we're doing to get this vegetation done is incredibly important. So if you see those folks, tell them thanks.
Thank you all for coming out.